All right. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our March 2025 release recap. I'm Amanda. I'm going to get us started by going through the USAS releases and inventory releases. Then we'll move on, talk about USPS and employee self-service. Okay, so to get us rolling here, with USAS, we had two releases in the month of March. They were both regular releases. We had 25.4 and zero point 0.5. For new features, we had a couple things here. First of all, we had the ability to mass post requisitions via CSV has been implemented. The new import button is available on the requisition grid. It'll allow posting a CSV file. And this works very similar. Sorry, I got a little pop up here. Very similar to the PO grid. So we do have the wiki page updated. And on here, we have the import requisition section here. And there is, here's just the general steps, but there is a template. So the template has all the necessary headers. You could open this in Excel and then populate this with your requisition information that you'd like to upload. And then we also have, oops, went back one too far. Hang on. Still want to be on that requisition page. Okay, so this is the import criteria section. And then the next section down here, we do have all of the different fields. So this is the field name that you see on that requisition template. We have the format and we have the definition. The required fields are indicated on this as well. Again, this very similar to the PO import. So we kept a lot of it consistent there to make it easy. Um, and then, so let me just show you on the grid. So transactions, requisitions, and we have the import button right here. It pops up. Maybe I should have thrown together a little file to actually upload here, but I figured it was pretty similar, and I know that this is probably not our main focus for today. So, really just the process would be you choose your CSV file, you click load, and then it'll show you if you have any errors, just like normal. So I'm gonna leave it at that with that one for today, but that is something that is now available. We had a lot of those like imports requests along the way we've been adding. So this was kind of like one of the last ones that one of the later ones that we've added. All right. And then improvements. So users that do not have the admin role but have been granted permission to allow changing user passwords can no longer change the password for user with an admin role. So basically, this is like, okay, if you have a district and the district wants to grant somebody within the district the ability to manage their district passwords and be able to set their district passwords, you don't want that person to be able to reset your admin password. Like you still want to maintain the admin level roles. So this is important to note that it is specifically the admin role. If you have users that have system manager, they will also not be able to change the admin role. You could like give, maybe one person at the ITC the admin role as well. But yeah, that is just to make sure specifically for like security purposes, the admin roles can remain intact while also giving that extra permission within the district to reset passwords. Okay. And then we made a couple updates to user listing reports. So we have the regular user listing I have an example of here. The user listing AOS extract was also updated with these fields, and we added the enabled field and two-factor authentication. I believe that these fields have been on the USPS site on the report, so this is making it consistent with that. And this is something that they had been requesting for like audit purposes. Sometimes I believe you guys were getting requests for that. So we went ahead and updated on the template reports. These are now part of the regular template report for the user listing and user listing AOS. Okay. And then as far as bugs, we had a couple of different things here where we corrected some bugs. So I'm sorry, the refund import, I try to combine those words. So for the refund import, this came out last month, was it? February. Um, once that was released, we had a couple of things that the team found, and they had got a couple things updated to kind of improve with that process. First thing is posting periods associated with both the refund date and the check date must be open to import transactions. So when you're making that refund, when you're importing the refund, it sometimes they can have a check and sometimes they don't. So that all depends on if the check box, the actual box for populating a check is set to true. And if it is, then it's going to make a refund on the refunds grid, and it's also going to put a disbursement out there. So this is just ensuring that posting periods for both must be open, just to make sure that it's not creating any records that, don't make sense if like maybe the check date is in the next month and that posting period just hasn't been created yet. Now you'll get a message letting you know that. Next, if the refund has a check, so if check is set to true, the check date field will be required to be populated in your spreadsheet before you import. It won't, if it's left blank, it won't default to, refund or current date. And basically this was done to avoid issues. So when this very first got implemented, we had talked this out as a team, and when you're adding a refund, so let's go, I'll just look at manually adding a refund so I can give you a visual for the fields I'm talking about here. So when we're creating a refund, we have our date up here, and this is going to be the date that goes on our actual refund grid. Okay. For refunds, that is also the date that it hits that the transaction actually makes the change so that it hits the account and everything. Now, with that, if you're making a refund, you may want to issue a check with that refund. And in that case, you would check this box here and enter this information to create a check. Now, when I did this, this populates to the current date. Um, Let me see here. I think like if I were to put this on a different day, and then check this still defaults to the current date. And so when the import was originally created, we said, okay, well, this date is always going to was always required for importing, but the original behavior for the upload was to have this work the same as this page did. Our concern was that that is kind of confusing, and if you don't know that this date could default to one that's not even in your spreadsheet, that it could cause problems. I know mostly this is a concern around like maybe the beginning or end of the month when they're trying to balance out their checks that they have out there. So what the solution is and what we decided to do is that when you are importing, so when you're importing refunds, if you have that create a check date field set to true, you have to put a date in. And, maybe you just make that match the refund date column. But really the reasoning for that is to make sure that the date that gets stamped on the check is exactly what's intended. So that's why it's required. And then also we added, they made an update, the importer can cope with invalid like bank account values. So, they updated that in the import as well. The other bug that we managed was correcting the handling of payables when unvoiding a disbursement. Um, I'm sorry, when unvoiding, yeah, when unvoiding a void disbursement. So, this was a very specific scenario where, like, if a disbursement is void, the invoices are not voided and still sitting out there in payables, and then the disbursement is unvoided after that. So it's voided, your invoices are still sitting there but not posted again. And then the check is unvoided. This ensures that those invoices get relinked now to the disbursement and they should no longer be sitting in payables. So the team did some research into this and like our initial implementation of unvoiding disbursements. This was something that they had tested and that it handled this way, but something with the subsequent change broke this. So this was basically just like setting it back to what the intended behavior was when we first added this. The next thing I have here is that we corrected a permission for the USPS integration security integration, or I'm sorry, security configuration view to prevent the US manager role from accessing the view. This view is restricted to sysman and admin roles only. And so this one is, let me show you here. This is USPS integration security configuration. And so this is a page where like the API keys can be generated. So this is something, so basically the USAS manager, somebody, usually that would be used for like a district manager role, would be able to access this. And so we locked it down a bit more so that basically this would be like the ITC level that would access this. So this is the information basically that attaches USAS and USPS together. Um, it's the same information that in your USPS configuration in here that populates this to basically so that they can communicate for the account codes and for posting over things like board distribution. So yeah, so this page specifically security integration, I'm sorry, security configuration is now locked down. Um, and then as far as bugs, we also, oops, I'm so sorry I keep doing that. Updated the date converter to handle null values and prevent throwing a null pointer exception. I looked into this one. So null values are basically like blank values, right? So this was updating to handle any blanks and prevent errors, essentially. This looks like it was something that was in common with the system. So I believe we updated this to just keep things consistent between different applications. We also had some internal updates. I won't go too far into those. Those aren't things that change what you're seeing right now, but some work that we're doing in the background, specifically with the REST controller. So we added public REST API key filters and authentication providers. Refactored the receipt and refund REST controllers to add additional endpoints for items and charges, and then continued internal refactoring to improve the build process. So a couple things going on there that don't affect, what you or the users are directly seeing in the software right now, but things that we are working on. Okay, so that's USAS. And inventory, we'll keep this brief. We just had one release for inventory, and that was a regular release. We corrected a problem with the REST version endpoint format. And gosh, I had some notes about this one. This was okay, so there is a specific format for like the path to be used for connecting. And so inventory was a little bit different in the path than USAS and USPS. And so with this one, we had looked at that and made it consistent with the other applications to make sure that when that's used, I believe in the future, that it'll be a consistent format to make things easy. And then this second one here, correct the system import option to prevent posting dispositions with dates in fiscal periods not yet created. So this is something that we ran into. Somebody had just found a situation where they had accidentally had a spreadsheet where a disposition date was actually in a future period, in like a future fiscal year. And so we found out through that that the system had allowed them to post that. And obviously, we don't want that because then, if it's sitting out there and you need to delete it or edit it, the period doesn't exist. So then that period would have to be created. So basically, we went in and made sure that this can't happen anymore. Obviously, like you can still post a disposition to a future year, just as long as that year is created already and open so transactions can be posted. So it just ensures that the right steps happen in the right order if that is the situation. Okay. Okay, well, that is all I have. I don't see any questions. So, Andrea, I will pass it off to you.
Amanda.
No problem. Hang on, let me stop sharing here.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. I'm a little rusty. All right.
Thank you. All right, I'll go ahead and share my screen then. That's the one I want. Yep. Okay. Okay. So we'll do, hopefully you can hear me. I keep on getting saying something about my volume's not good, but hopefully you guys can hear me. And how do I get it? I want, oh, why did I do that? Since I paused it, what did I do? Can you see me? I don't know what's going on.
I can see and hear you, Andrea.
You can? Okay, thank you. For some reason it
Yeah.
says your screen sharing is paused, but I don't know
Oh,
what
yeah,
that
the
means.
page. So the page that we're looking at, your screen. Oh, okay. Yeah, now I don't see her. Can
Yeah,
you
why
still
did
hear
that? Okay,
me?
I want to stop sharing and re-add.
Okay.
I don't know what happened there.
Okay, yeah, your website was looking just as a blank page for me. But
How
yeah,
about
we can
now?
see your camera now. Okay.
All good?
I can see your
Okay.
page. I can hear
What?
you, but I'm not
Okay.
seeing.
I got a new laptop, so this is
Okay.
why I'm like, so why I can't get this off. Why is that not wanting to remove? Ah, there we go. Okay. Ah, that was a pain. Okay. Okay, we'll be going through the payroll part of the releases. For March, we had two regulars, March 14th and March 28th, and then we had a hot fix on the last day on March 31st. So the first ones will be the new features. Nothing really to go over on this. This is no visible changes to you or the districts for these core items. And then the next one, I'm gonna go down to the bugs. There was an employee patch. I believe this was for a district, and so there was no changes. Oh, ESS, excuse me. So there's no visible changes on that one. There was a bug. A district was running a payroll item refund outside of payroll. And when they noticed they had a payroll archive or a payroll item that was archived for a city, and it was including that, and it was being withheld on that refund. And it hadn't been withheld for that portion of that refund that they wanted. So if it was archived, but it didn't have a stop date, so it was still including that. So now we are going to, when they do run that, if they have a payroll item archived and it does not have a stop date, it would not be included in that refund. So then if you do have districts that are going to be running these refunds outside of payroll and they notice that something's not getting included and they do need it included or something, so they just need to make sure they unarchive that to be included. So that is a new item that we did for the bug. And then the other one was after the release for the new fields for the hourly employees, which we'll be going through here on the improvements. So I'll kind of skip over that bug and then I'll tell you that when we get back. The patches for internal, there was some behind the scenes things that they did, which I won't go through because it was nothing that you guys would see. The one thing we did do was write a patch to correct some data for the USAS submission for a district. That was really the only patch that we did for one of the districts. So now to our improvements. The one improvement that we did was to the outstanding payables. We added the payables adjustment to the audit report. So now when you go to audit reports under audit, you're going to see down here, user payables adjustments. So this will include everything that you added in processing outstanding payables under payables adjustments. Because what we're having issues with, if we were having, they wanted to audit this, once this gets ran through payroll, this falls off the screen because this, like this one is still needs to be included in payroll. So we needed a way to audit those reports. And I did do run a audit report here. So here, this is now what it will look like. So the one that I still have out there, my last one is still showing here. So that will show the ones you add in, the ones that are actually already included in payroll and fell off of that screen that are no longer showing. So they will show your old value and new value. So just like the other audit reports. Okay. The next one was the year-to-date report will no longer include the deferred docs. We were finding that this was not adding correctly for, I know I can find my, I had it up here. Where'd it go? Oh, right here. So now when you run the year-to-date report, the deferred doc was listing here, and that was not calculating the gross pay correctly. So we took that out. So now you're only going to see the earnings like ACC, DCK, miscellaneous, NC1, the other regular pay type codes. So you will no longer see deferred doc. The next one was improve performance during payroll when they're modifying, updating the future amounts. Again, you will not see this. Hopefully it would just, I think just runs a little quicker for you. So really nothing to show on that one. The other one was when we added that new property under for the W2 delivery configuration for this one here, when we added this enable W2 digital delivery, when this was unchecked, it would take that field off the employee field down at the bottom. When you opened up the screen for an employee, here it would remove it on the core employee. But when you went to the employee dashboard and went to look at an employee here, it was still showing down here regardless that if you had that box checked or not. So we went ahead and updated that so that will no longer show if you don't have that box checked. The next one is the core items that have templates. Now you will be able to, those are all sorted by alpha order. So any of those that you are using templates under, now you'll be able to see in alpha. So here I have an example. This is a position for a district that I had because my injury doc doesn't have hardly any. So I wanted to find one that you could see. Now they're all in alpha order. So those will be for any templates that you have created for any of those core. And I think it'll be a little easier for districts to find those. So there's that one. The next one was to improve the W2 tax entity code selection under W2 report and W2 city options. So what we did is when you go to your reports and you look now under report or forms and you go down here, you're going to see if you have your payroll item configuration for a city that has the same tax entity code, it's only going to show, it's going to include both of those payroll items now for that city, those cities. So for a test, I kind of showed, I created a payroll item city in the tax entity code for both for my 020 and 004, and also did another one for my 008 and 005. Now, if you have one tax entity code for just one of your districts, then it will show like this what the name of the city and the payroll item code. So if I go over here to core and payroll item configuration, so my 004 was one of them that I had two cities included. So my tax entity code here is what is going to drive that field now. So if you do have cities that go to have the exact same tax entity code or something, that will be showing there then. Otherwise, if you just have one tax entity code, it's just going to show that one city and the name. Sorry, the names are kind of odd. I should have updated that. So that was the new one on that. And again, those were for under reports. And also for, I believe, the city. Yes. So, okay. And why is it doing that? Don't want that. Ah, there we go. Just get rid of that. Perfect. Well, being a stinker. Okay, so the next one is the payslip direct deposit updates. So yeah, this is a big one. I have some examples here. So this is for hourly employees only. So if their pay type is set or pay unit is set as hourly on their compensation, then these employees will show those fields on their direct deposits. So again, the pay unit here is what's driving that to show those what is going to be daily or going to be hourly. So I have the first one here. And this is the check one. And for the check, if your districts you still use checks, this is what is going to change. If your employee is hourly, now that they added a pay date up here on the top right for the start date, excuse me, they added the rate. They also added the total gross, and they added the name of the organization and also the total hours worked, and then the hours over 40. So that one is for your checks. And then the one for your direct deposits. Okay, there we go. Bring it over. Oh, I grabbed the wrong one, sorry. Let's try it again. Oh, I must have clicked out of it. Okay. Let me get my other one. I must have closed it out. Sorry about that. Let me bring it back in. There it is. Okay. Accidentally closed it. Okay. So this is the direct deposit default check form. What we did was add the start date here, added the rate, and then also the total hours and totals over 40. So that is the new default direct deposit notice. Okay. So then how we come up with those tokens, we added documentation out here under our useful procedures, and then under appendix, excuse me, so you know where that is, appendix, useful procedures, and HB. And thank you to Lori. She got this done last night. So now this shows your updates to the forms. And then also how the system is calculating that new total hours line. And then also how the system is calculating the hours over 40. So I do have an example here. So let me get that for you. I tried to do some different examples just so maybe it would be a little bit to make it understandable a little bit. Here is an employee that has 2 jobs, but they're both starting with the both start and end dates are the same. They're not on different pay groups. The pay unit is set to hourly on the compensation for both. And then to figure out my job 1, which is my regular wages here, I took the 6 hours, which you will find on the compensation. So to go to the compensation for each job, find out how many hours there is. And then you go to your job calendar for that employee. And if they're different job calendars, then you remember you got to go to figure out how many days, work days are for each. And so I took my 6 days from my job calendar that I took for these dates in between here, which was 6 work days. And then I took those 6 work days times the 6, and it was 36 hours, which does match. And then I took my job 2, which was 1 hour on the hours per day, 6 work days, because it's on the same job calendar, 6 days. And then I took 36 plus 6 equals the 42. And then the extra time that this employee worked was 2 hours, and then another extra time of 3.5. And then I added those hours together. I got my total hours of 47.50, which is exactly what shows here. And he did not work over, so he would not get any hours over that work week for those 2 weeks. Another one I showed here is an employee that had more jobs, same start dates and end dates. This employee shows here total hours worked of 80.50. Sorry, it cut off. So why didn't it show 0.5 here? Because you can see this is 0. So what was with this one was I went to the job calendar. I got my days. I checked to make sure they had no AT entries, because also it looks at your job calendar and any attendance entries. So that first one up there, sorry, I guess I didn't say that. It didn't have any attendance entries. So nothing for that one. But on this one, also no attendance entries. My job calendar work days that I figured are 10 days. I went to that compensation, 8 hours in the day was 8 hours. So 88 times 10 was 80. I figured out my overtime hours was 0.5 for that job 1. Now, when I went and looked, I noticed that when they went to future, they added those retire hours in there. And those are, the calculation won't look at those retire hours. So when we look at the AT entries. So either they have to make sure they add an AT entry for 0.5 hours for job 1. And if they would have done that, then you would have gotten the 80.5 is the total hours worked, which is correct. And then your hours of over 80 would have been the 0.5. But since they added in retire hours in future, it did not pull those in, and they would have to make sure they add and not add the retire hours, but then add it in as an AT entry, selecting hours for 0.5 for that employee. Then that would have shown as 0.5 hours over. I have another one here, just one more. So here's the same employee. and sorry, my cat wants to join us. 10 hours and 8 hours overtime, or excuse me, 8 hours. So the same employee, but I ran it differently. I went in and added that 0.5 in attendance for 0.5 hours, show the 8.5, and then it pulled in my 0.5. So again, it's going to be depending how they're entering in any extra hours to get them to figure the hours over week. I'm not sure if that confused you more or helped, but I just wanted to show a couple examples of kind of how it's calculating. So again, it's looking at hours per day, the pay unit. It's looking at your job calendar, the pay period and end dates, and it's also looking at your attendance entries. And again, if they're adding them as if they're hourly employees and they add an attendance entry for like that 0.5, but they went and added 1 day as a daily, then you're going to see eight hours here. So that was another one I guess I didn't have on there. I should have had an example. So again, it just depends how they're adding this attendance entry in attendance.
Hey, Andrea,
Yes.
I just have a quick question. So for them to get this calculation of the hours per week to come out correctly, and the district currently does not put in attendance for those overtime hours because they're on the same day, so it really doesn't change anything but their pay, the district is going to have to do additional work to put the attendance data for those hours to be shown on this, the way that it's calculated.
According to the law, if they need to have those showing over if they're working over their total hours worked of the 40 per week, then yes, then they'll need to make sure they have that there.
Right, but I'm saying they don't put it in attendance screen now, but the way that this is calculating and the way you've got it set up, they're going to have to put it in attendance screen for it to come out.
Correct. If
I
they
can see
wanted
a
to
lot of
be
districts not doing that.
correct, yeah. And then it's probably just going to have to be a adjustment maybe, or to pull them in. And because if they're, like I said, if they're adding it on the retire hours field, it's not looking at that. So it only is going to be looking at those job calendar and then your attendance. This right now, that's how it's set up. It's only going to be looking at those two places for those hours.
I see. And then also, like on your first example,
Here.
they don't work over 40 hours combined for the whole thing. However, if they work this overtime on job one, then they would be over 40 hours on that first week. So that doesn't matter. Is it just a combination of the total pay period?
That's correct. It starts from those 2 weeks calculation. From what I understand, is that correct, Mark? Am I saying that correctly? That's how that's working? Because since this employee only worked 36 hours for
But
the
if they work that
period.
overtime on job one, that job one has over 40 hours for that week.
Right. From what I understand, this is going to calculate as 40 hours for the 2 week period here. It's calculating in there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Is that correct, Mark? I guess Mark's on the line here.
Sorry. Can you scroll back up just a little bit?
Yep.
Okay, so this is a pay period that would include 3 weeks across a calendar. The 16th, let me bring up my calendar so I can actually talk about the weeks.
It should be 2 weeks. Well, 11 days, I should say.
I understand that it's 11 days, but if you actually look on the calendar at the 16th through the 31st is on its own week.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
So when we split the weeks, there are 3 weeks there, and the only way we can tie how an employee actually worked to the time frame that they worked is through job calendars and attendance entries. Unfortunately, there is no way to tie a pay amount to a specific day. Without an attendance entry or a job calendar entry, we do not know the actual day that a pay amount's worked. So that's why we have to have one of those two formats, and then what we do is we break it down by week and we add up all of those figures. And if by week it's greater than 40, we will take whatever is over 40 and add it to our hours greater than 40 by week. We can't just take total hours worked and then subtract total hours expected, which in this case it'd be 3 separate weeks, which would be, what's that, 120 hours, and make an assumption that that's correct, because if somebody did work over 40 on one week but then worked under 40 on another week, you would actually never have anything over 40. It's it's a limitation with how our data is stored and processed for what they are looking for in this new law. And we are trying to improve this. We're still talking about it internally, but that's how it works right now.
Thank you, Mark.
Andrea, can I ask a question? Okay, so it's more of a statement. So I had this situation this week. We had a district who we did the updates to their custom direct deposit notice, and their employees are daily employees and not hourly employees. So when their hours are calculating their extra hours, their overtime hours, it's only putting hours per week 6.5 because it's not counting the daily units. So are they going to have to either A, switch all of their people to hourly, or B, would they have to add each individual day that these people are working to attendance if they're marked as daily employees? Because it's going to look like they worked 6 hours. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I guess
Yes.
I didn't see that as one of the examples.
That was something that was brought up this morning, about people that are stretch pay or they're daily employees, but they're really hourly employees, right? Their compensation is daily, but they're really considered hourly.
No, in this situation, it was people whose compensation is marked as daily and they have a unit amount of a daily amount. Did you have hours listed there that say, let's say it says they make 236.52 a day, and they do have 8 hours a day, but they're marked daily and their unit is a daily unit. So those are not,
and then they should get, yeah, those won't show here because it's only looking at the pay unit of hourly.
Yeah. So the payroll person at the district, I guess her concern is, how do I explain that to the person, the employee? Because it looks like we're saying they work 6 hours for the week. So I don't know. That's just, I mean, I guess that's a little concerning because I don't know how that's gonna pan out.
So when they create the pay stub, they're getting total hours worked on there.
Yeah, like it's coming up on there, but it says like 6.5 because they have 3 other jobs. One is a job for extra hours, one's a job for overtime, etc. And it's only counting those hours in the total hours.
So are they entering those hours on attendance as hourly then?
Those jobs are those 3 extra, kind of like you see here on your screen. Like if they had the extra time, but their regular job would be daily.
Okay, so those other jobs are marked pay unit as hourly.
Those other, the extras.
Yeah.
But it's only counting those.
I think that would show correctly then, because it's just jobs that are worked hourly. The daily won't show at all. So that daily job is being taken out of the equation.
Right. But so I guess like from her point of view, she's asking, well, if I want it to look accurate, because one of the jobs was an overtime job, I would have to make everybody's daily job hourly. And so I guess she just wanted, because it's gonna appear on the pay stub, the direct deposit notice, no matter what. But it's always gonna look wrong if their main job is daily, I
Correct.
guess. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know how to tell them how to fix that because she's concerned about that.
Mark, any suggestions?
The only real question I would have there is if their main job is actually an hourly job, then it probably should be hourly in the system. I understand that prior to this law, the idea of an hourly stretch paid employee could be entered as a daily to make life a little easier because they're always going to be paid the same amount. But we can't make assumptions there. And so all we can do is say, if you're hourly, then we're going to try to make these totals work. I know that that likely changes processing, and I also can state that we are awaiting a second legal opinion on whether or not hourly stretch paid employees actually need to be reported in these two figures. But until we have that information, I can't really make any more changes to how it's currently working.
Thank you.
Okay.
Andrea, I have a question, but it's not about the hourly thing, but it's about the
Okay.
pay stub. If you could bring that example back up so you could see what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Please. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. I will find it. There you go.
Okay. So you see how on this pay stub, how it shows job 1 and 2 at the top?
Yes.
Mine's not doing that. I just processed our payroll on April 1st here for us. And I see only the
Oh.
first jobs listed.
Okay.
Like right now I'm looking at a contract person who's daily and hours aren't a problem here, but they have 3 positions, but only job 1 shows there. I have
Okay. Go to your
okay, go
payment
ahead. I'm
printing
sorry.
configuration. And then you got
Okay.
to make sure you update your direct deposits. And if you use checks, you got to make sure you update this figure here. I should have
Okay, so
mentioned that too. Yep.
no, that's okay. I figured I missed something that it's not the
Okay.
first time, won't be the last time, but edit payment printing configuration.
Yep.
And then edit.
And right
I-
here, the direct deposit position, this is what tells you how many lines or how many jobs do I want to include, positions.
Oh, got it. So I don't see
Yep.
that print payment. There it is. I'm
Yep,
blind as a
print payment.
bat today. All right.
That's okay. It's Friday.
Thank
And then
you
make
so
sure
much.
also checks, if you have employees, the same thing with checks. You just want to make sure that that's up to you. But I don't know how many still use the checks, but just to let you know. So,
All
because
right.
this is only updating the direct deposits if you're updating this line down here.
Yeah, we're all direct deposit. So,
Yep, then you're good.
all right. Thank
So,
you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on that? I just have one more other thing I was going to show you with that. Also with this here, the calculations, also, if you go to creating custom forms, which is under the useful procedures also. We also added the direct deposit template here and also the new check, the default template. And then also down here, and also just let you know, if you're kind of new to creating custom forms, we also have our documentation here that how to create a custom form and how to add those into those fields. And also down here, we have our crosswalk. I am working on updating it, taking it out of this form and adding a drop down and adding it this way. And then adding those tokens that how they should already be with all the little hashtags and all the little marks that should be, instead of showing it how it is here, because these right here don't really even show you all the little tokens or the little tags that we need around there. So I kind of was doing some updating. It's going to take me a bit, but we also have those here. And I did add those new tokens and then like the ones that you actually need to put in when you're editing those merge fields. to add those. I did add these new tokens so you can see exactly what the whole line should be when you're adding them. So I did kind of do that a little bit, but again, I'm working on updating it into a sheet like this and a drop down. So hopefully that will be a little bit easier to read. So, okay. Is there anything else that you might need? I think the only other thing is when you're adding those, you just got to make sure you have your if statements in there. And like here, I think, let me see if I have my deposit template. Yeah, here's your if statements right here. So you got to make sure you have all those across. When you're adding, if you're doing a custom. So I did add those. I think there's 3 lines actually. There's one if, and then the total hours work, and then another if statement here at the end. And I did include those in here. Exactly what they should be. So, okay. Is there anything, any other questions on this? I think we already went through all those. That you have or concerns. If you do have issues, please send a ticket out and we'll definitely try to help you if you have issues with the custom direct deposits. And we will take care of that. There's one thing I did, we had a few tickets I did want to mention. We noticed that the institution name, if they're moving them in their custom form and moving them around for some reason, it's not pulling in the institution name. And then we also had another one with the rate wasn't working on the custom form. And we do have that out there looking into that. So I definitely will be getting back to those. I think I have 2 or 3 tickets on that. And just let you know we are looking into that. Okay. I think the next is the ESS, and that would be, I believe, Michelle. All right, I'm not sure who's doing that. And I will stop sharing and send that on.
It's Mary.
Oh, Mary. Hi, Mary.
Hi, thanks, Andrea.
You're welcome.
All right, let me get my video going here. Share. Well, that was a lot to digest, Andrea.
I know, sorry.
I'm gonna try to make this
Not so much.
yeah, not so much, a little bit quick, so that everybody can get on with their day. But in ESS, we had 2 regular releases, 25.4 and 2025.5, and then 3 fixes. I'm going to go through the new features that were released first. The first one was the ability for the users to see their USPS job calendars. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that. It's on, let's see, I got Brent up here. It will show your job calendar from USPS, and they can change the calendar from different positions. So I can go and see what my teacher calendar is, and the calendar description will change. Currently, it's connected to the position in the group or the pay group, but we have 2 more JIRA issues in that will be released on 2025.6. First one is ESS 1257. That's going to allow an enable or disable feature for showing the job calendar, so the district can decide whether or not to show it. And then the second one is ESS 1256. They will be changing the job calendars from looking at position to compensations. So we hope that will be helpful for them to see that. Next item I have is the create leave calendar PDF listing report. So that will allow PDF print for all calendar options. So I will go back to Brent here. And if I go into, he has my leave calendar, I can print any one of these listings, monthly, daily, weekly, into a PDF. So I will print the monthly calendar into PDF, and you can decide whether to print it in color or black and white. And then I click on print calendar to PDF, and I'm sorry, I just encountered this error doing something else, so I'm not sure what's happening, Mark. I did take a screenshot, but it does work because it worked for me earlier this morning. And the PDF is, easily printed. Any questions on that so far? Okay, the next item I have is the audit report. It can be run currently for leave requests, timesheets, and users. And they will be, this is in flux, there will be more audit types that you can run in the future. So I'm going to log in, and you do need to be a admin to do this, or admin type. So I will just log in as admin here on our test version. So that's found under system and then audit reports. So the first item is the object type, which is the choice you have between those three right now. So I will select, you have a leave request here, and then you have timesheet down here, and then user. But I will pick leave requests. This item here is a really long number, and you'll see one on the form, and I'll point that out when I show you the PDF of it. You can select the username to run it against, which would be the person who made the changes. You can select also whether to see only add, modified or deleted. So if you want to only see where they added a leave request, you can put add in there. But otherwise, if you leave it blank, you can see all of it. I can choose my sort. And that will change depending on what you're selecting. But if I pick, timestamp, I want to see it by timestamp. And then ascending or descending, and the start and stop dates. So I'll go March 1st. And the sub-report options, the field report is what includes all the details of what is on the report. If you turn on and off the approval, audit trail shows basically what is inside of your audit trail in the actual leave. So there'll be a little grid at the bottom that shows that. And then the daily details at the end. If you click on this down arrow, you can choose to select a specific leave type. I'm just going to do all of them. And then the employee is where you can select which employee was affected. So if I only want to look at one employee's leave, whoops. I can pick that and then add that person. If I want to select another one, I can and add them. So then you would get the report for both. I'm going to take this one off. And then you click on generate report. Right now, for some reason, we're getting that 404 error. So I did print this one earlier. And I'll show you what comes out on the report. Sorry for the scrolling, get you back up to the top. At the top of the report, it'll give you the title and how you ran the report. Okay. And for which dates, the priority that, or the properties that you selected, and then the direction of the sorting too. So for this one, they modified the leave request. On this particular one, they're showing you the beginning or the starting leave request and then the changing. And that number that I told you about earlier is this entity ID here. That just is the unique identifier for that leave or that change. And then to make it easier to read, I'm going to go a little farther down here. This is the section where I said that it looked like the audit trail as well. So this shows on here if you select it. And then here is where they modified the leave request by selecting or changing the substitute field from false to true. So they want to have a substitute. And then they added the name. So it was null at first, and then they changed it to Nancy Smith. And that's one of them that was in there for that leave request. The same thing for this one, and this is for the October 9th date. But we did add these highlights in here so it's easier to find where the changes were made. And then the daily details section, I saw one down here, is usually one line. This is where we changed workflows. So I'm sure some of you have done that. Sorry, I can't find the daily detail on this one.
Mary, I think the daily details are showing that page that you have right there. You got the workflow approval trail on the left and then the daily details.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was looking for the one line. So that's the daily details. Sorry. Thanks, Michelle. So there were improvements made to this as in the improvement section here, but they added the new to the title on this column here. So I'll show you that. So this is old field value, new field value. And then they show you what the change is, that it's highlighted. And then they also had added the filtering in this section here so that you can select certain parts that you want in the report. There are a lot more improvements coming and more reports, and they will make it, you'll have more options is what I'm getting at on that one. The documentation is not done yet on this, and it will be changing, and items will be added as soon as we get them. Any questions on the audit report? Okay, so I did talk about the changes on that, the improvements on the audit report. The next one is the ASOP grids. This was kind of a background change. They changed the way the icons look for the check marks and the X's to match what's on other screens inside of ESS. So that was just a behind the scenes change. The next one for sub coordinator to receive emails for leave requests. This one, everybody knew about when it came out because we did get some tickets on that one. So inside of the documentation, We have, oops, sub-coordinator, and we did define that they, sorry, my screen's slow again because of Zoom. We did define that they will receive emails if you're in view. The sub-coordinator receives them for, had been receiving them, but is also receiving them for the canceled and rejected. And we have the people that have sub with pay group and sub with building. They also will receive emails only for their groups or departments or buildings. So the role here really does make a difference. So any information you need about the sub coordinator is in this section of the manual. And here's where we talk about even the read-only role receives that information. So we also did that with the next one, which was view notify users will also receive emails. So we did do that with all the view notify for canceled, approved, and rejected. These will be under, this information is under the users. Oops, sorry, wrong screen. So if you go to users and then leave request groups. It talks about the notifications that they'll receive under here. Okay, let's go to the next one. The supervisors can now enter sub information for their staff during the approval process. So that one, I can show you. I'll log in as a supervisor that we have on our test side. And if they go into their leave request screen, they can do it under here or under the approval area. So if I go in here, I can do an edit. And if I decide that Susan needs a sub and it's already gone through to the approval area, I can add that in here. So I can say substitute needed. And then I'm going to schedule one. I can give them a name. And then I can save it. I can also approve it from this screen if I like. So I'm going to go ahead and approve it. You can put a note in and approve that. And now that leave is approved and gone off of the leave request screen. I can still see it under the view district leave if I want to look at it. That's this one. I picked the wrong one. Sure did. This one. Sorry, I think I picked the wrong one. I don't know which date it was for. But it does work. I can try it again on this one here. Okay. Check it again. There's Mr. Smith. So the supervisors as well as the leave managers and approvers can add that in. Okay, any questions on that? The next improvement that we had was on the data change request form. There were some properties on there that were should have been read only. It was the last paid date and the last evaluation date. So that has been fixed. And that is located here under employee profile and create new data change request. They no longer can make changes to those fields. So it will not write back to the USPS side on here. But it will still display when they go into employee profile. Go there. I guess I have to go to a different screen. There you go. So those fields will still show on this screen here. Last date paid and the last evaluation date if they have one. Okay. The next item is they improve the default column size of the timesheet line item grid for ease of readability. And I'm also going to add in this one here where the grid preferences to timesheet shift. They also remember the user preferences now. So I'm going to go ahead and go in into my screen here. And I'll log in as the admin so I can show you the shift one as well. Okay, so timesheet, I'm sorry, timesheet shift. I'm in the wrong section. No. So these were not movable early before, and now they are, so you can adjust these to make it easier to read. I could also change and include or exclude any of these items in here. And let's say I don't want to look at that anymore. And then I can also move my columns and it'll keep it there for my preference, just like the other screens are doing now. And let's see, there was a last login under the audit that was generating a lot of records. So that in the background, they removed that, but under users, you can still see the employee's last login. So it's just keeping the last one, but it's not logging it under the audit service. So here's the last login. You can still see that. The next item is include exported leave requests as line items on the timesheet. Prior to this improvement, the last or the exported leave request was not showing on the timesheet, but now it does, so that the employee can still see it even if it was exported prior to the time that they are completing the timesheet. So I'll show you that. So if I go into my leave requests, I can see that, sorry, this is taking so long. I gotta click everything twice. This date of 3/18, they had a sick day and it was already exported, but I haven't completed my timesheet yet. So if I go into timesheet and I look at the 3/15 to 3/28 timesheet and go into edit it, I will see that this 3/18 still has the exported leave request on there. And prior to this, it was not doing that, so it's a good improvement. And the next one, whoops. ASAP processes prevented unchanged ASAP records from continuing to be sent to ESS on every sync. So what was happening here is that even though the leave request was added to ESS from ASAP, there were certain ones that didn't have a change that kept coming over. So what they did was they improved it so that if it already exists in ESS, they don't keep it any longer. They don't keep sending it. Any questions on the improvements? Okay, there were several bug fixes in there, and I am going to just concentrate on a few of them. The first one was a bug fix where the admins couldn't see the leave expense form any longer when it was created. So now they can, and they can use it or change it or adjust it. And the next one I wanted to talk about was the timesheet line item replacement. If this one here, if the time was the same on the leave request for hourly, the 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., the leave request was creating a second line item, but now it replaces it if it's the exact same times. So that was a big improvement on that. The next one, the login and usernames were, when they did a release, the login and usernames were sometimes typed in with a capital letter by the user, and it wasn't recognizing them because everything is stored as lowercase. So those were changed to be recognized as lowercase, and the users were able to log in after that. So that was a hot fix. The other one we had was absence management sync wasn't correctly setting the substitute flag on the employee self-service leave request. So when it was being created, that was also fixed so that when it's set on ASAP, it's also set on ESS. And then there were a couple patches here. The one was with a subcoordinator email would remove disabled users from being sent that update for an email. So if a user is disabled and they were in the group chain, it's no longer sending them that email for the subcoordinator. The other one we have on here is the line item grid was not displaying the AM and PM for the times, and that was redisplayed, so that's been fixed as well. This last one, employee W-2 digital delivery properties, that has been put into USPS. And they are working on it on the ESS side as well, so that you can have some configuration there and There are 3 gyra issues associated with that one on our side. It's, well, I'll give you the one, it's ESS 811. And then there are, it's a Epic one, so that there are more gyra issues underneath that, which will get you the W2 digital delivery. That's all I have. If Michelle or Mark have anything to add on the SS, I'll turn it over to them.
Good morning, everybody. Just follow up. Thank you, Mary, for the ESS updates. I think the only thing that I just want to leave you all with is that we do have training sessions coming up. And speaking of ESS, we will be doing ESS training in a couple weeks. The 15th, 16th, and the 17th, we're going to be doing an ESS overview. So the first day is going through the leave request workflow process. The second day, we're going to be covering ASAP integration. And then the third day, we're going to be going over the timesheet module. So again, that would be in a couple weeks. So if you haven't signed up, please do so. Sessions are in the morning, and they'll probably be the first day when we're going over the leave request approval, will probably take a little bit longer, probably a couple hours, and the other 2, I would think less than that. Also, we do have our SSDT Direct the week of April 22nd. So for those of you that have districts that haven't signed up for one of those locations yet, and they are close by, the registration page is still out there. We will be accepting registrations, I think probably the Friday before, so whatever that is, the 18th maybe. And so we'll keep that registration link open for all 3 locations. We've had good responses, but we'd like to see a few more. We appreciate the ITCs that are hosting, and thank you for all of your efforts. If you guys don't have any further questions, I think that's all we had left to wrap up with. If not, everyone have a wonderful weekend, and we'll get this recording out here and place it on our registration page in case you guys want to go in and review any of the information that was covered. Thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.